Hello guys, welcome back. We have our final review today with the last four classes: Shaman, Rogue, Druid, and Warlock. First up we have the Blazing Transmutation for Shaman. It's a 1-mana fire spell. Choose a minion, discover one that costs one more to transform it into. So another evolve effect, but this one you have a little bit more control over. Obviously we have two other evolve effects already in the Muck Pools and Convincing Disguise for 1 mana. This one can only evolve one minion once, but given that you get to choose what it's going to transform into, it's going to be a much more powerful singular evolve. So the main use for this probably is going to be choosing what your null evolves into. Potentially game-winning minions that you can hit. Thaddeus, of course. You can have just a look here at the 10 cost pool. There's a fair few of them that are kind of insane. You can't get Neptulon, but Lokkalar, very good for cleaning up board and setting up a lot of damage against the opponent. Raid Boss got Rush, Sire got Lifesteal, Stoneborn General, Rush, and a big Death Rattle. It's very nice. So you're likely going to get one of the good results here. One thing that you could hit is Thaddeus. And Thaddeus changes what you can do. Your odd cost cards cost 1. Suddenly you can do an insane turn if you evolve into that. You can cheat out Glug for 1 mana. You can cheat out Commander Neptune for 1 mana. It's so strong, in fact, that maybe we should be tuning our deck in a way to accommodate for that. And how do we do that? We need to put in extra odd cost cards that might be good. One of them I think might be alright is the Sunwell. I'm not sure how exactly this works, whether the Thaddeus will take into account the original cost of the Sunwell or the cost it currently is at before it applies the discount. But if it takes into account the original cost, this is always going to be 0 mana, you would imagine, or 1 mana, depending on how it works. You have to play in game. But in some scenarios, if it does work, this is going to be mega discounted. You can play a cheap Sunwell after having the Thaddeus down. And then any odd cost spells that you get from the Sunwell are also going to be 1 mana. So you could potentially do some crazy value, crazy turn if you include this in the deck. Also, maybe it's worth putting in some 9 cost cards instead of running these 10 and this 5. You could perhaps put in a Malygos to draw a lot, or something like Overlord Dracaru, which currently is a bad card, but if you cheat him out for 1 mana, he's suddenly very strong. So if we just run these 4 minions, Glug, Dracaru, and the nulls, our prescience is going to often find us a null and one of these big things. So if we null and then use the new spell to evolve into Thaddeus, we can cheat out a 1 mana Glug or a 1 mana Dracaru pretty consistently. And that's kind of scary. So definitely a very strong card. Probably just goes into Evolve Shaman as an additional evolve, and you don't take out the other evolves. You just play this as well. And the null just becomes even scarier. It's kind of maybe too powerful now. It's a little toxic, so maybe I'm slightly disappointed they went for more evolve cards for Shaman. There's definitely big Shaman support they could have gone for instead, but definitely a very powerful card. Next we have Cold Storage. This is another Shaman spell for 1 mana. Freeze a minion, add a copy of it to your hand as a frost spell. So this is similar to Seance, which was a priest card in the past that cost 2 mana, which had the same effect but didn't freeze. That card can be very, very high value. This one is obviously cheaper, so it's a bit easier to use on your own minions and on enemy minions. And if you use it on enemy minions, you get that freeze as well to give you a bit more tempo. Is this going to be good? Well, the card it's kind of competing with is Wind Chill. Is draw a card better or worse than add a minion to your hand? Well, on the early turns, often you use it on a totem, which you don't want to be adding to your hand. So definitely worse there. But one application of the new spell, Cold Storage, is that you can use it to get extra copies of your Knolls in an Evolve deck. So let's say you've played the Prescience, you got your hand nice and full, you play a 1 mana Knoll, you take a trade, then let's pretend this is the Cold Storage, you Cold Storage it, get another Knoll back to your hand, then you evolve it, so the freeze effect doesn't really matter, and you have an extra Knoll in hand, which is very good because especially with the addition of an extra evolve spell, you're going to have often more evolves than you can use if you're just using the two Knolls. So getting an extra copy of them will be very useful. Another application of the card that I've thought of, which is kind of funny but probably not good, is Kragwa. You can actually get infinite Kragwas with this spell. So all you got to do is Kragwa, and then you play the Cold Storage on the Kragwa, and then next turn you're going to get Kragwa plus Cold Storage again, plus whatever other spells you can do. There's a lot of mana, 7 mana for that, but it's infinite. You could maybe add Bracing Cold in as well, since that one heals you up and doesn't really cost mana. Well, it does, but reduced mana anyway. Some potential there for kind of a meme deck. Probably not good, but kind of funny. Maybe there's something there. Overall, I think this is like decent potential for card. Using it on opponent's minions, there's some decent ones you can get as well. Particularly high value battlecry minions like the Nargaling from School Teachers are a very good option. Astalors, that sort of thing. You can just get a lot of value from this card potentially. So it seems pretty decent. It just begs the question whether it's actually going to make the cut in an evolve list. Okay, next we have the Frostfin Chomper. This is a 3-mana 2/3 elemental Murloc. Battlecry, if you played an elemental last turn, summon 3 1/1 Murlocs. A lot of stats for the mana if you have the effect. We can take a look at elementals in Shaman. Oh, don't need the earth. There we go. Not too crazy ones that you're currently playing. This one's like fine. This one does see play. Like the cards are there, they're okay. It's just that they're not insane. The Murloc Rook's certainly better, so maybe it's a better idea to try and go for Elemental, which is already a Murloc, which is really the Amalgams. And you tended to run this card anyway, so that's already 4 cards already. There's some potential for running the new Mistake as well. But I like the idea of the Kindling Elemental as a 1-drop instead. The next Elemental you play costs 1 less, so because you're playing the Murloc package, you're going to include Gorlock Ravager, and the Gorlock Ravager is going to tutor the Frostfin Chomper for you, so you're very often going to realize the effect, the mana discount of running this 1-drop as well, and you have potential high roll of the 1-drop into the Chomper as like a 1-2 curve, which is very, very strong. You just get so much stats out there on the board. It's gonna put you ahead against most decks. And then you can run finisher cards like Bloodlust potentially, and No Fin Can Stop Us as well. Pretty strong if you have a wide board of Murlocs. So it looks like a generally good card, and it doesn't require you to dip that much into elementals for, I think, to make the synergy work. So definite potential there. Also, you could run Anchored Totem. If it's activated, you give all the little 1/1s +2/+1. Probably not going to be that great, but some potential there as well. And of course, Boner. Boner plus it will give you a full board. And that's it for Shaman. I think they got a pretty good set this mini set. All three cards definitely have potential to see play. Next we have Rogue. They have a 0-mana spell Ransack. Deal 1 damage to a minion. If you played a card from another class this turn, deal 4 instead. So this is kind of like a worse version of Vendetta, since it requires you to actually play the card rather than just have one in hand. It has the slight upside that you can still play it for 0 mana, deal 1, whereas Vendetta was always 4 mana, deal 4, if you didn't have the requirement. I don't think this is crazy strong. It's probably not making it into miracle lists, just really the thief lists. The way I see it working nicely is with a recon that you've prepared to play, or with a secret that you've you've generated to your hand through the from the 2-drop. Can't remember the name of it right now. Sketchy Stranger, yeah, that one. So you play the Sketchy on 2, and then you play a secret plus the removal, or you play the recon and you play like the minion plus the removal, that sort of thing. And I'm pretty sure it will see play. It's just going to be better than a lot of cards in Thief Rogue. But again, it's not as strong as Vendetta, but Vendetta was a very, very good card. And being a bit worse than Vendetta still means the card can see play. Next we have Jolly Roger. 1 mana 1/3 undead pirate. After your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 undead pirate. Alright. That's a lot of stuff in a 1-drop. Summons pirates and is a pirate, so obviously pirate rogue springs to mind. Hook task is on whether you've summoned pirates, so this 1-drop, if you get a swing with it with your weapons, already 2 pirates towards that goal. That's pretty nice. There's also Swordfish, wherever he is. This card here. Backcry Dredge as a pirate, give this weapon and the pirate +2 attack. So additional pirates for this, which is a very strong weapon. So definite potential. I don't think this is going to be that good in non-pirate decks, because the rogue just often doesn't want to dagger onto a lot of the time. They want to spend mana on other things, so you're not going to have a weapon ready for this a lot of the time. And they tend to want to tempo swing later in the game rather than go for early board. But certainly potential for like a tempo-based rogue, especially the pirate variety, for this to see a lot of play. And I mean, it's just a really good 1-drop. Vanilla stats plus a big upside. Seems very good. Like you could go Coin Dagger into double Jolly Roger sometimes and completely take control of the board against any other aggro deck. Okay, next up we have, finally for Rogue, Stitch Creation. 3 mana 1/1 undead, combo game +2/+2, infuse 2, game +3/+3, and manifest 8, game +4/+4. So this is not like a choose one between them. They all can trigger individually. So you can have up to a 10/10 if you add them all the stats up together and meet all the requirements. But more realistically, you're probably trying to just hit the first 2 for a 6/6 around turn 4 or so, if you meet the requirements. So this card kind of pairs well with the Jolly Roger, and that the Jolly Roger gives you tokens to infuse this. But this is not a pirate, it's only an undead, so if the Jolly Roger deck is mostly just wanting to play pirates, then I don't know if you want to make the room for this. Typically rogue decks right now don't actually infuse a lot, so this is not going to come online until much later. The Miracle Rogue deck already makes a 10/10 on turn 4, it doesn't need this to do it. So if you only have the combo, it's just a 3/3, which is pretty terrible. Even just the infuse, it's a 4/4, and you have to combo it as well to really make it okay. It just seems too often it's going to be too bad, and you have to kind of move away
from traditional rogue decks a bit too much to enable it to be potentially good, and even then, it's not going to be insane. So I don't think this is going to see play. Alright, on to Druid. Druid got a new 1 mana removal spell. Rake. Give your hero +2 attack this turn. Deal damage equal to your hero's attack to a minion. This seems very strong to me. Druid does lack a bit in a removal, and this is a great 1 mana option. Even not talking about quest Druid synergies, which it obviously does much better with. So 1 mana option for removal. They have Druid Reef, which is provided taunts aren't in the way, deal 3 to a minion. But this Rake is deal 2 twice, split among things. You might have to take some face damage some of the time. But it seems a bit more flexible. Plus it can scale if you have gained attack in other ways. So your hero power, for instance, on turn 3 you could go hero power plus this, and it's kind of like dealing 3 to 2 different targets, which is kind of fine for 3 mana. Kind of similar card to pre-nerf multi-strike in DH, if you remember that, which was a 1 mana which let you deal 2 to 2 different targets, and that was very, very strong. And I imagine this is going to be quite strong as well. Particularly in Druid, where they do lack a bit of removal. It's not got a nature tag or anything, so nature Druid is a little less inclined to play it, but I think even ramp Druids in general would want to find a slot for this. Outside of that, you got Quest Druid, and this is going to be very, very strong in Quest Druid since they have plenty of ways to gain attack, and it just scales very, very, very well if you already have gained attack. So you could potentially kill a very, very large minion with that, whilst progressing quest and maybe clearing another minion or just going face. It's just very, very good card, I think. Next we have the Death Beetle. This is a 6 mana 6/6 undead beast. Taunt, manifest 11, gain +4/+4 on charge. The manifest 11 right before Guff rotates. Huh. And we got the flavor text. Well, that'll be useless at next expansion. Wink, wink. So this is a not so subtle hint that we're gonna be finding ways for Druid to go above 10 mana again next expansion. Doesn't necessarily mean the Guff is staying. It probably more likely means that they're just going to be printing other cards that allow you to exceed the limit on mana for Druid. But how good is this card right now, or is going to be? I don't think it's that good. The only right way to get to it to activate is to already have played Guff and get to 11 mana, and then you get a 10/10 charge, which is good, granted, but Druid does have other ways to finish the game. So this is probably unnecessary. Because I feel like it's just a bit bad when you haven't met the mana first. 6/6 taunt. Ugh. It's really just not very good. Some potential to change Druid's way of finishing games, so it's not relying on Astalos so much. But the Astalos is just so strong. I don't think you need this as well. Alright, we have Life from Death. 6 mana, nature spell. Draw 3 cards, infuse 6. This cost 1. Holy moly. This seems very strong to me. Druid obviously has Scales of Onyxia. Fill your board with the Whelps. This activates it alone, which is something you want to be doing on 7 a lot of the time anyway. You can also, if you're running this card, go for Flipper Friends, which summons 6 otters, and if all the otters die, well, this is active as well. And 1 mana draw 3 is just very, very powerful. Nature as well, and if you're inclined to run Flipper Friends as well, maybe we're going for a Topior sort of deck and go very heavy on the nature spells, and that fits very, very well for it. This card is actually maybe so good that it might squeeze out Miracle Growth in some lists, potentially, or you just run them both. But very, very nice card draw for Druid, and it's just going to allow them to cycle the deck Even in a 40 version, you can just probably cycle through all your cards very, very easily because of this. And seems very, very nice. Other than ramp druids, token druids, I don't know if they actually want to run this sort of card. It is possible that they will infuse it through playing all their tokeny things, but they have to have it in their hand at the time, and those sort of decks don't even run composting anymore, because even when they're off the board later on, drawing cards doesn't suddenly get them back onto the board. Like they can't scale the late game as well as other decks generally. So I'm not sure on the token angle, but definitely in a ramp style, and potentially means we want to be playing Flipper Friends plus Scale of Onyxia. Okay, finally Warlock, last cards to look at. We got some handsome fellas here. No Fins Impossible. Give all friendly demons and Murlocs Death Rattle summon a 2/2 Implock. And the Implock is a demon Murloc, and he looks the most handsome of them all. He's actually just chilling in the back there in the original image. I wonder if these Implocks are actually going to have different colours, or they're all going to be this yellow one. I would like to see different colour ones. That would make it more fun. But anyway, how good is this card? It's a Soul of the Forest, specifically for demons and Murlocs, but for half the cost. And it summons Imp / Murloc instead of Treants, which is a big deal. This seems like actually quite strong in a minion-based the Imp block, not the Curse variant. Fiendish Circle into this. It's really hard to keep the Warlock off the board and keep them from being wide, which is going to really help them for buffing up the board with the Shady Bartender, or with the Location, or with Imp King Reform, or with their 1-drop, etc, etc. It's just it just seems really good and really low costed. Now, Shaman used to have a card similar to this. Let's see if I can find it. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? There we go. Soul of the Murloc. Soul of the Murloc. Give your minions Death Rattle summon one more Murloc. And this seemed like it would be good at the time, but it was not. It was actually very bad. But that was just summoning a 1/1. This one summons a 2/2. And I think Warlock's in a position right now where it's quite easy for them to spread wide onto the board. So potentially a really strong card, I think. It's not going to be mega crazy, because like you're going to be in situations where you've played your Fiendish Circle, and then you have mana to either play this spell, or you've got mana to just play the Location and buff up, or just add more minions to the board. And a lot of time that's just going to be better than putting this buff on them. But for against decks that can clear your board, this just as a potential to play around AoEs is just going to be very, very, very nice. And I think it's going to see play and be quite strong. Next we have Suspicious Peddler, 2 mana 2/3 undead. Battlecry, discover a 1-cost card. If your opponent guesses your choice, they get a copy. Obviously flavor, it's a new Suspicious card, and it's like based off the old Dark Peddler that people loved back in the day. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be good though. It's kind of easy for your opponent to guess the 1-drop, especially because you're going to be playing it a lot of the time on the same turn. So you're not really gaining much value. Yeah. Plus you don't get any class benefits like you used to. You're just going to get a bunch of neutral 1-drops a lot of the time. Not so great, but a nice callback. And lastly we have Plague Eruption. This is a 3 mana Warlock spell. Deal 2 damage to all minions. If you discarded a card this game, deal 1 more. So this is worded similarly to Fellfire in the Hole, deal one more, and Fellfire in the Hole triggers 2 and then it triggers the one afterwards. It doesn't just trigger 3 at once. So that means if you've got spell power with this thing, it's going to scale off both of them and do a lot more damage. But outside of that, how useful is this? It's going to activate within bomb lock as well, because of the supplies card. It does discard something, so this will activate from that, but I don't know if it's really necessary. It's actually quite expensive for an AoE for that deck when they have access to Sheep and they have access to Grimoire of Sacrifice, which are just generally cheaper AoEs than this. So I don't know if they need an additional one, but potentially a one-off. It's not a terrible card, it's just might just be outclassed by other things that Warlock has to do. Okay, that's all the cards for the mini set. Very excited to play it come Valentine's Day. I hope you guys enjoy the mini set as well, and tell me what you think, what's going to be strong, and what you're planning to play. And see you guys in the next video.